Hello, my lovelies. Welcome to yet another episode of the Next Level on Purpose podcast. And today's topic is one that will get you thinking. Today's topic might actually even trigger you. Today's topic will actually make you ask yourself a few questions, and we're going to dive right into it. We're going to talk about indecision. And I want to just take us through indecision because many of us, through life's journey, through our daily activities, during our routine life, come to a place where we are at a crossroad of making transition, of making decisions. And it's very easy to accept indecision as a state. And I want to make a declaration in today's podcast and hear me out because I'm going to flesh this out to you that indecision is actually a form of self abuse. Indecision is a form of self abuse. And I've realized that in as much as I'm very decisive in most of the stuff, I've realized that in the areas that I have held back on making a decision or buried my head in the sand because it's probably just sounds such a hard decision to make, or what would be the repercussions or or the what would be the effect of me making that decision. And I found myself dragging on a decision that could potentially impact the trajectory of my life. And it's so easy to say to yourself that, I'd rather just sit on it rather than say that this is the direction I'm going to go, because as women who are ambitious, trailblazing women, we do not want to put ourselves in a position where we are making a decision based on our emotions, based on, oh, I'm feeling I should do this or the other. But the decision should come, from a place where you're trusting yourself, right? The feeling that you have credibility with yourself. And what happens the longer we hold on to our decision making process and allow ourselves to remain in the crossroads, the more we find ourselves losing even credibility with ourselves. Hence, the reason that I say that indecision is a form of self abuse. I know that there are varied types of decisions, and usually what happens is that we start making decisions from a soul level before we use our logical mind to decipher whatever it is that we want. So your soul already knows, that inner part of you already has the decision. And I've found for myself that it is my rational mind, my logical head, that will talk me out many a time of making a sound decision based on, is it practical? Does it make sense? Do I have the time? Do I have the support? How will I look? Who do I need? And you get into this rabbit hole where you end up doing nothing. Indecision is a form of self abuse. I want you to remember, and if you don't take anything away from this podcast, I want you to take this from today. Remember, your present life is a consequence of all the choices that you have made. Your present life is a consequence of all the choices that you have made. And I want you to understand that your future depends on your ability to make decisions and make them quick. In fact, there's a quote that says that indecision is the thief of opportunity. Opportunities come our way, but it is our lack of decisiveness that steals these opportunities that could potentially alter the state of our life, that could potentially change everything for us. Think about some of the decisions that have been really complex in your life, whether to take job A or job B, whether to live in a certain neighborhood or a different neighborhood, whether to, leave your job and launch a business, or leave your business and get employed. These are not easy decisions. However, staying in a state of indecisiveness is very costly because time is moving anyway. And I always say indecision is is worse, so much worse than a wrong decision. Why? Because if you make a wrong decision, you have made a decision and you can always turn back the clock. Or rather, you can always find out, not turn back the clock, but you can find a way around it. More is lost by indecision than a wrong decision. And I want to think about the moments in my life where I have let indecision lead, where I have fallen in that trap of indecision, and I look back and I'm like, I should have just chosen whatever, and then we'll fix it as we go. I fixed many things along my life path, and including things that have, as I said, have altered my way of thinking and my way of life. And I understand sometimes we are socialized to have other people make decisions for us. We are socialized to not think because we give our decision making power to other people. Could be to our parents, could be to our spouses, could be to our bosses, could be to close friends. Like, what do you think I should do? And you get into this constant cycle where you're always seeking other people's decisions, that you end up not having any footing or any grounding for yourself. So I want to give us a few ways that you can work with indecision in such a way that it's, if you're an overthinker or you're a perfectionist or you're constantly in that place that I said that you feel like you have lost credibility with yourself, will help you move forward. So sometimes for me, the right choice, as I said, is obvious, while at other times, the solution or the decision is a little less clear. So when you're in that fork, on the road, when you're at that place where you're like, do I choose A, B, C, or D? Let me give you some tips that could will help you. And I'm certain that if you apply them in your life, it will make the decision process so much easier. And the first one for me is around my values. Whenever I find myself stuck in indecisiveness or I'm in a place where I'm querying a decision, I go back to my values. And for me, it comes from what are my principal values? What is important to me? So I ask myself, what do I value most? So as I make a decision, is it based on my values, freedom? Is it an abundant? Is it the decision coming from a place of abundance or a place of lack? Because abundance is one of my biggest core values. Is it giving me peace? Is it in line with my purpose? Because purpose is very crucial for me. Does it give me emotional security in the sense that I feel that I can rely on what I'm feeling as a result of the decision? Does it give me peace? Have you ever made a decision and you're like, I don't know how it's going to work. I don't know what's on the other side, but I feel a degree of peace. Your decisions and choices really do go a long way in defining your life. So it's critical that you ensure that when you're stuck in indecisiveness or in overthinking or in procrastination, that you go back to your core values, what it is that you stand for. Another thing I have found that is very helpful in indecisiveness or when I'm, probably doubting a decision or I'm not sure the direction a certain thing will take is I ask myself, do I have sufficient information to make a good decision? And I found that for me, knowledge is power. So I take advantage of every resource. And my uncle Google is very good at this. So sometimes I will just say, go to Google and research something so that I'm making a decision from a place not of ignorance, but a place of knowledge. Knowledge is power. But please understand that I do not want you to confuse information gathering with procrastination. What I want you to do is to do the research and then gather your information. make a decision and commit to it. So please let this not be an information gathering system that you're going to use and waste precious time. Use it to, check what your options are and then quickly delve into that. The third thing is, you know, there's a difference between taking your time and being indecisive. And failing to make a decision, as I said at the beginning, is a decision. Failing to make a decision is a decision. So, as I said at the start, indecision is the enemy of progress. Indecision is what prevents us from snatching or getting opportunities that could potentially change our lives. And it just only lets opportunities slip by. So, you need to pick a path and go with confidently in that direction. Do not be swayed to the left, do not be swayed to the right. Commit to it, stick to it, and don't give your power to others as you make this decision. You've made the choice. This is what I'm going to do. Go all in. Because when you do not make a decision, what you're essentially saying is that you're willing to lose control of your future. Another one that I would highly recommend you to do when you're in a state of indecision or indecisiveness is to speak to a mentor or a coach to help you, to guide you through making the decision. Remember, your coach is not going to answer or tell you, do this or the other. In that sense, what they will do is work with you and support you to make the best decision. So you're basically checking in with someone who has the experience, because I believe experience counts for a lot. Someone who has experience, someone who knows how to ask you those questions that will help you move forward. If they have walked in the trenches and they have wisdom or guidance to share with you, ask for it, allow them to be able to help you with this. For me, I'm very careful who I ask for advice, because I'm also very aware that there's advice that could work against my best intentions. So I'm saying ask for guidance from someone who has been there and succeeded, instead of blindly following the masses, blindly following others who have no experience whatsoever in the matter. So be very careful when you're asking for people's support in making decisions. The next thing that I want to say is take time off. Sometimes take time off to just relax, go for a walk. You cannot make an important decision when you are stressed. Let me repeat that. Do not try and make an important decision when your mind is all over the place. I have tried it, and what happens is that my lizard brain takes over. I start seeing all the reasons why the thing will not work versus how I can figure it out. So I find myself leaning towards the disempowering questions rather than seeing how best can I work around this. Honestly, your brain does so much better when it's relaxed. And light bulb moments and the answers to some of these decisions come when you're at ease. So for me, it's when I take a nice long bath, when I go out for a walk. Sometimes I just sit down with my journal and write and write and write and literally pour everything that is in my heart on paper, because an overly stressed state will only aggravate the situation and will inhibit the higher functions of your brain. Another thing that I would recommend when you're in a state of indecisiveness, or you're not able to make a decision, it may not be an option that everybody will take, but I strongly advocate for it, is to go to God. Go to God in prayer or use meditation or whatever spiritual practice that is yours. I've realized that if you go to if you go into prayer, you'll be able to collaborate, in my case, with the Holy Spirit and say, show me, make it clear to me the direction that I should go. Give me insights, show me a sign, bring something my way that will show me the direction that I should go. And I found that has been so helpful for me, even as I go into states of meditation, because I realize that the mental state that is achieved through prayer and meditation can actually heighten your awareness, right? And put you in a much better position to make informed decisions from a place of peace. I would also use a tip that I shared with my friend the other day. I was on a coaching call with a client and we were trying to brainstorm a few things. And I said to my client, what would you tell a friend in the same situation? So I was sharing with my friend later, and she was like, that's brilliant. What would you tell a friend who's trying to make that decision? So when I'm stuck on something, because it's so much easier, isn't it, to help other people figure out their problems than your own, right? So I prefer to sit and think of it like it's somebody else's problem. So I'm like, hmm, what would I tell my friend so and so if they came to me with this question? That way, I'm answering it from a very unbiased perspective. And sometimes you can ask yourself, if I was to give this advice even to a close family member, right? If they had the same decision to make, what would I tell them? So if I was speaking to my sister, what would I tell my sister? That makes it so much easier because you'll be making it from a place of wisdom and sort of putting yourself out of it so that you can be able to give the best guidance. When you're in a state of indecisiveness, another thing that I would encourage you, and that is why I'm so big on getting clear on your vision, getting clear on your overall life mission and your goals. Because when you know what your goals are, as you make any decision, you will go back and say to yourself, is this in line with my goals? Is this in line with whatever it is that I'm planning to do for my life? How does this choice mesh with my goals? Because each action that you take will either make achieving your goals easier or harder. So my question would be like, would this path A or path B take me closer or farther away from my goals? So that way you'll be able to make an intelligent solution based on your goals. So some of the decisions we make, like for example, if your the decision was whether to go ahead with writing your book in this first quarter of the year, or do you push it until the end of the year? Go back. What did you say your Q1 goals would be? Was starting the book one of them? And then that will help determine the choice it is that you're going to make. And then think about your long term goals and work backwards. Is this decision serving what my long term goals are? Sometimes there's more than one choice with potential benefits. And that's why you need to consider both the upsides and the downsides to each option. And once you've written, so there's option A and option B, and you're able to really look at it and say that I have these two options that potentially have the same benefits. I will then go through and see which choice of the two has the least risk, and that for me will be the one that I will take. So to do this, of course, I would recommend that you take a clean worksheet and create a pro and cons list. So what are the pros of decision A? What are the cons of decision A? What are the pros of decision B? What are the cons of decision B? And then you will be able to determine for yourself that, oh, looks like the pros are so much higher in decision B than in decision A, so I will go for decision B. Go with what feels right for you. Your instincts will tell you Do not be afraid to trust your instincts. Do not be afraid to trust that inner knowing in you. It never lies, it always guides you. And even if you're still uncertain, make a choice and stick with it until something comes up and shows you that perhaps that was not the right decision. Because as I always say, you can always course correct. Time is still moving, people are still making decisions. And one of the things I learned from a friend of mine many years ago is that she would hide under her multi passionate nature. As a purpose coach now, I now see what it is and I can call it out for exactly what it is. So she would be like, oh, I have so many ideas. I'm so gifted in so many things. I don't know what to choose. And 10 years down the line, her life was exactly the same because of all these varied choices. She did not make a choice to go with any of them. So guess what? She ended up doing absolutely nothing and staying in a state of inertia. In my next level on purpose program, one of the things I was teaching the ladies was the different types of energies that can encompass us in our life journey. And one of the energies that stops us from advancing forward as we make decisions in life is inertia energy. And a state of inertia is dangerous because nothing is moving. And you know that stagnant waters stink. Stagnant water is meant to flow. Life is meant to flow. That's why indecisiveness is a form of self abuse, because when you're in a state of inertia, nothing is moving. And when nothing is moving, it means you are stuck. And that being stuck is what leads you in continuing to perpetuate and repeat the same destructive cycles year in, year out. And I want to challenge you. If you go into your life and look and you say that 2020 was the same as 2019, was the same as 2015, was the same as 2021, what difference will 2022, 2023, 2024 make? Be honest with yourself, because if you continue doing the same thing and expecting different results, you are lying to yourself. There's a place where you will have to say that enough is enough. I'm going to make a decision and stick to it and go confidently with it and be ready to face the repercussions. Because as I said, you can always, change course. You can always do an about turn. You can always tweak. But if you sit in that state of inertia, it's like sitting behind a car that you've not switched on and you're saying that how come I'm not getting to my destination, and the ignition is off. You have to take an action. You have to enter the car, turn on the ignition, put your handbrake or whatever, and then put the gear lever, and then release the gear thing and get moving. You understand what it is that I'm saying? But a parked car cannot take you to your destination. A car that is not in motion will not take you where it is that you want to go. And that is why I say indecisiveness is what stops many people from capturing opportunities in this life. I understand that perhaps some of the biggest decisions in our lives can be the most intimidating, and we do not want to make a mistake. You do not want to make a mistake around some of the biggest stresses in your life, like example, when it comes to your life purpose. But for me to be able to sit in this position, I had to make a decision to leave my corporate job and trust that I am doing the right thing. And that if it does not work, it's not the end of the day. I can always go back and apply for a job. Let's not stay in that mode of, oh my God, I'm stuck with this forever. We're not stuck with anything. It's not a tattoo. It is not a tattoo that you have put on yourself. So I want to challenge you today to know that it's okay to make a decision, whatever it is, because even a poor decision is actually so much better than no decision at all. A poor decision is so much better than no decision at all. And as we wind up this particular episode, I want to tell you this is that the more you take action, the more clear you get on whatever it is that you're looking to do. When you take action, you actually, in the process of you doing the thing, you might discover a new idea or an even better approach, but it means you have to get moving, or the wrong road, what you think potentially is the wrong road, may take you down the right side street. Who knows? I've done this many a time where I'm driving and I'm like, this just doesn't look like where I'm going. And somehow my sat nav figures it out. And all I need to do is make a little turn and I'm at the place that I want to go. So don't freak out on making your decisions. Do something instead of doing nothing, because a guy called George Canning once said something so powerful. And this is where we're going to summarize this episode. George Canning said, indecision and delays are the parents of failure. Indecision and delays are the parents of failure. I know that the next level woman the next level woman on purpose is intentional. She trusts her instincts and she makes her moves, however scared she is. And I want to urge you on today to build credibility with yourself. One of the areas that I've worked alongside my coaches with is building credibility with myself, saying to myself that I'm going to start something and I'm going to finish something. And one of the things that was a decision for me was this podcast. It has been one of the most fulfilling things, but it took me a long time until something catastrophic happened when I lost my friend. And I'm like, I can't stay in indecision anymore, because she would encourage me every time she interviewed me on her podcast that, Joanne, you need to get your podcast moving. And I'll be like, yeah, yeah, we're going to do it. That was indecision. And when we lost her in November of 2021, her words came so strongly in my spirit that, Joanne, you need to do your podcast. And I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt, there was no room for indecision at that point. I quickly went back to inside myself and said, I trust myself to make the best decision for myself. I trust myself enough to know that once I take action, the path is going to get clearer. But I need to make the move. I need to get it started. I need to get the support. I need to get the help. And when I made that decision, guess what happened? The doors just kept flinging open for me. I got the right support around what it takes to create a podcast. I got my topics so clear. I got the whole strategy, the vision, the mission. I was so aligned with it. And here we are, a good decision later. So, on that note, I'm going to love you and leave you. But as always, as you listen to this podcast, I'd encourage you to share it with a friend or two or three, and to keep yourself open. Do not be, do not lock yourself to just what you know. Allow yourself to sit with these thoughts and ask yourself, what decision am I going to make today that could potentially change my future? What decision am I going to make today that could actually be the starting point of something major in my life? What decision am I going to make today that will make whatever year you're listening to this, at the time of recording, we're in 2022, that will make 2022 the best year of your life? And as we step into a new month, a month full of potential and possibility, I don't want you to think about what you've not done. I want you to go back and say that this is what I committed to. These are my goals. I will not let indecisiveness, I will not let doubt, I will not let overthinking, I will not let procrastination steal the show. I'm going to go deep into the recesses of my mind, into my heart space, and make a commitment to myself that I am going to do exactly what I said I'm going to do in 2022 and cling fast to that decision, cling hard to that decision, and ride with it. Because on the other side of flowing with life is magic. Flow with life, and you'll experience the magic that is available for you as a next level on purpose, intentional, trailblazing woman. Until next time, I will love you and leave you. Have a wonderful, wonderful week and see you next week for our next episode.